Just saw Martha. Someone let her in?
Showing as a co-host.
Wait for Martha to come on. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Chuck Tirone, Reading's Conservation Administrator, pursuant to state legislation superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law. Chapter 30A, Section 20, relating to the COVID-19 emergency, the March 27, 2024 public meeting. Reading Conservation Commission shall be held virtually and open to the public. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and all materials are available at the following link, which I'll provide. And not Martha, but Brian Bowe will facilitate tonight's meeting. Please note that there will be public comment for each hearing. Each vote will be taken. This meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. We'll begin with roll call attendance. Brian, can you please conduct the roll call and confirm that all members are present and that they can hear? And then please review the agenda.
Okay, as usual, the order I call you in will be the order we vote in. So first is Walter.
Walter Talbot, member, present.
Andy.
And Andy Driven, member present.
Tony.
Tony Rodolakis, member present.
Martha.
Martha Moore, member present.
Brian Bowe, vice chair, present. So a quick summary of the agenda before we go any further. We have a full agenda.
Recording in progress.
So please, everybody, bear that in mind. And if you find me cutting you off, that's why. We have a number of hearings. First one is 252, 260 Main Street and 10 Pinevale, followed by 47 Hemlock, and then 71 Lila Lane, and then 44 Chiquesset Road. That's it for the hearings. And we have old new business. We have some plan changes to look at. 550 West Street, 41 Winter Street. Andy is going to give us an update on SWEC. Then there's a minor plan change to consider for the Reading Rifle and Revolver Club that Chuck will tell us about. And then a number of discussion items, including the Bear Meadow land use discussion, Friends and Family Day discussion, Conservation DPW meeting, any bills to be approved, any administrative report, and one set of minutes to review. With that, call to order at 7:07.
Okay, we can go right to our first item of business. I don't know if you want to read the blurb as I let in people for that project.
I don't think we have to. We've done it any number of times already.
You good with going forward?
Yeah.
Okay, Carlton, can you just state your name and for the record, name and you just asked for address, but name and address for the record, and then give us a update on your project. And let me know if you want to share screen, right? You're going to be presenting. Sure.
Yep. Good evening, Commission members. My name is Carlton Quinn. I work with Allen & Major Associates of Woburn, Mass. I am a civil engineer registered in the state of Massachusetts. Tonight, I should have with me Jackie Trainer, who was the landscape architect on the project. She may or may not speak, depending on the feedback from the board. And I don't know if Severio is here, but he might. Severio is here also, the developer of the project. So since our last hearing, I think it was back in December, we've had a number of discussions with the CPDC and the abutters. And we think we've come to a plan that is basically final, and that'll be submitted to the board along with an updated drainage report and a response memo to the engineering department tomorrow morning, I believe. I have the plans with me. I'll leave it up to the board if they want me to go through them informally, just to give you an update of where we are at, even though you haven't had a chance to review the plans. We have also received this week feedback from the peer reviewer for the wetlands line. I'm not sure if the board's had a chance to review that, but I can certainly go through it. It was basically a confirmatory flag with one revision that I can show you on the plan that is completely insignificant to our project, just because of the distance away it is to the project. Is there anywhere you would like me to start, Chuck, with those two items?
Chair,
So I think you should go ahead, bring up the plan and show us that one flag so we can agree with you as to whether or not it's really insignificant, and then we can move on.
Absolutely. So if you go through the peer reviewer's response, he agreed with all the wetland lines except for wetland flag number 7, which is 107, which is located here. He noted that he had replaced the wetland flag approximately 10 feet up gradient of 107, which puts it right at this green dot here. And due to the geometry of this wetland line here, you're going to see that basically 101 and 111 100-foot buffers come out to here, which is significantly further away just because of how 107 set into it. If we move the flag up gradient 10 feet, 10 feet, half inches here, we're still 136 feet away from the property. And we'd be even 142 to where the buffer line is 100 feet away from wetland flag 111. And that's why I'm claiming that it's insignificant, because even 100 feet off of this new one doesn't even come onto our property by almost 37 feet, if that makes sense.
Anything else you want to add to that?
That was it on the peer reviewer.
Okay, so commissioners, we've covered this a number of times. We have this one small change here to talk about. Does anybody have any additional comments that they need to bring up about this or something in general?
so the only comment I would say is maybe not a vote on this. I mean, we don't have the material yet, so discussion, sure, but just hold off on the vote.
Yep.
It does look like it's not, hasn't made any change to the project,
Okay,
but
so any comments from commissioners?
Did we have access to this?
Is that online yet?
no,
Okay,
yeah.
I'd like to look at the peer review report.
okay, all right. So we will need to continue so we can look at that. So given that, I'm going to assume there's no other comments. So are there any public comments that we need to take into account here?
Not at this moment. We should get through the presentation. So maybe they'll talk about the changes on the plan and quickly, because you haven't reviewed those either, but it might be a good idea just to run through them so you know what to look for when you do get this additional information. I think it's coming out tomorrow, which would be great. And then you can review that before the next meeting.
Okay, so why don't you take us through any other changes on your plan?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to pull up the plans here. I'm going to bring up the original plan that was presented to you back in December. You're going to see about a 9,700 square foot building fronting on Main Street. There's a curb cut off of Pinevale Ave. There's a curb cut off of Main Street. We've got a dumpster located here, a loading zone, a patio, sidewalks, amenity area. You can see it's fairly tight up to the buffers here, and a shed. This line delineates the 100-foot buffer. We got about 1,700 square feet of the property in the buffer in this location. This iteration of the plan had 40 units, 8,100 square feet of commercial use on the first floor, and 78 parking stalls. We've made significant reduction. I'm going to switch over to the new plan, which you should be getting tomorrow. And a quick overview. You'll see that we've removed the curb cut to Pineville, which necessitated a lot of other changes, but this was the most significant item that we needed to address with the CPDC. Is I would say one of the most significant items we addressed with the CPDC is that we're going to remove this proposed curb cut to Pineville. The existing single-family house is going to stay. We are going to move the driveway from the north side to the south side of the building, and this lot is actually going to stay intact right here as is, and is going to provide an access and parking easement along the back of it for 252, 258, and 260 Main Street. So this is now actually two different lots. Well, this is going to remain a single family lot with an easement on the back. The building has been moved over to center it on the site to provide two curb cuts on Main Street to provide adequate fire truck access to circulate the building. The building footprint has remained approximately the same, but the unit count has been reduced to 30 units, and the parking count has been reduced from 78 to 70. So we've reduced it by 10 residential units and 8 parking stalls. The proposed impervious has been reduced by about 2,800 square feet, or close to 8%. And the amount of impervious in the buffer has been reduced from about 415 square feet to 337, or about a 20% reduction of the impervious area within the buffer here. You can also see that we've pulled the dumpsters out of the buffer area. We've increased the setbacks along the property lines to the amenity areas. We are absolutely open to the condition for the lighting of the wildlife lighting for the, I forget, it's the 560 nanometers or whatever that is. It's certainly open to that as a condition of the approval. We also have provided, I believe it's straight native plantings within the buffer area. We basically have other native plantings along the majority of the rest of it, except for some giant pillars that are going to be used for some screening and some street plantings in some tight areas. But other than that, it should be most native plantings throughout the project. I'm going to just quickly flip through the plans here. Now I know you haven't had a chance to review them all. So the project site itself is about the same due to the fact that we're going to be removing the driveway from this side, removing it over here. We're going to be providing a buffer fence or a screening fence along all the property lines, except for the area outside the buffer in the commercial zone here. The CPDC would like a no screening fence to try to open up the corridor and not provide it as two different lots. There is a loading zone within the buffer area, but everything else is basically kept out of the buffer area. Same drainage as before. We're holding the 25-year storm on site, as was requested by the town engineer, to hopefully reduce any stormwater flooding issues that are currently happening in the area. We've got a revised utility plan, lighting plan. This is a snow storage plan. We've got enough storage on site for about 6 feet of snow falling on the parking lot. This truck turning plan. Some more vehicular turning plans. This is a curb cut dimensional plan. I think we've got a series. This is a site section plan. So this wasn't on the last plan set you saw. This was requested by the CPDC just to understand how the elevation change was going to go across the site. So we've got a baseline here because we were cutting the site down a few feet to make the site work because it sits so high above Main Street currently. So this is the existing Main Street here. These are some of those green pillar oaks that we're going to provide at the front to provide some street plantings. You can see the building here. There's the existing service in the dashed. Here's the existing parking line. Then we're going to provide another row of green pillars at the back of the parking here. We've graded the site in such a way that we're hoping to keep probably close to half a dozen existing trees along the back of the property. Some of those are up to about 80 feet high. And that's why we saw that increased buffer to the back. That was done to try to save some additional existing trees at the rear. There's some details here. I'd be going into the landscape plan. I'm happy to hand it over to Jackie if anyone has any particulars on the landscape plan, but I can give a general overview here when we get to it. So we've provided some parking or some shade trees here in the front at the corner of the curb cuts, some low plantings in the front. We've got 5 street trees we're proposing here in front of the building. Got another shade tree here and here. We've got perennials and low plantings all along the edge of the parking lot. You're going to see a significant amount of plantings here. This was to try to help mitigate any sound or sight line disturbance to the neighbor here at 12 Pineville, and that's kind of the reason that we did flip the driveway over to provide some additional screening in here. You can see there's a substantial amount of screening in here. That's that giant 80-foot tree here that we're trying to save. Saving 3 more trees over here along 12 Pineville. And then there's 5 existing trees in this buffer area that we're also trying to save and supplement with those straight native species that were requested at the last hearing. So I know that was quick. I didn't want to waste too much time knowing that you guys have not had a chance to review anything, but I'm happy to answer anything, or if you'd like to hear some more landscaping, Jackie's probably the person to answer any of those questions. Thank you.
Okay, given that fuller explanation, do any commissioners now have any comments or questions?
I'd like to look at the plans in a little more detail before offering questions, but I would like to thank you for listening to the board here and in the community, and for proposing a number of the changes that you've made. Thank you.
I think it's a better plan. Thank you all for your feedback.
Andy?
Yeah, thank you. This looks far more developed, so I appreciate all the work you put into this. My only question, and it might be there because I haven't seen this stuff, is at a plan with the existing trees that are to be removed. So like a tree count, those that'll be removed, and then when the landscape plan, how many trees you'll be adding. So it look at the before and the after.
Yeah, I think we have all that. I'll have to double check that it's in the package. We're providing a CPDC, but I'll be sure to provide it to the Concom prior to the next meeting deadline or submittal deadline.
It's listed on the notes on this plan right here.
That was Jackie. Sorry, you do have some notes on here. Total of 53 larger than 6-inch DBH exist on site. This design provides to keep 9 existing ones. And do you have a total proposed, Jackie? And
Yeah, go to the 502, and there's a total on the plant list.
okay. So there is some of that information on there.
There's
We don't
60.
show them where the existings were removed, do we, Jackie? Is that on here?
That's on the tree survey plan. That's a separate plan. Did that
Yeah,
get included?
That did not. So we will include that for your review.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Walter, I can't see if you have your hand up. Do you have anything you need to say? Martha, either
I'm
one?
good.
Martha, you all set?
I'm all set.
Okay, Chuck?
Yeah, 2 questions. So the commission is interested only in the buffer zone area. So hopefully we'll be able to figure out what trees are going to be removed in that area. And our question would be, did you meet the tree policy in that area? So just for, I know that it sounded like everyone was talking about all the trees on the site, but we really only have jurisdiction within our buffer. And my other question was, I noticed that you had looked to, change the plan to take on some of the conditions that the commission asked for. I was wondering if there was any consideration to,
Taking a medicine, or do you think maybe you had too much Nutella crackers and ice cream?
Probably too much ice cream, I might guess.
So I think I just muted that person, so hopefully that's what happened. So I asked for you to look into using we're gonna have a condition for, no rodenticides on the exterior of the site. Was that something that, I think Severio told me he was looking into it, but is there any follow-up on that?
So yeah, there was a lot of discussion in the CPDC regarding pests on the site and existing issues they're having in the neighborhood from surrounding commercial areas that are keeping their trash areas in a bit of disrepair. So Severio has put together a pretty substantial pest management report, I think, that he can provide. And I don't think we have an issue with the no, however you
It's
phrase it.
rodenticide.
Rodenticide, yeah.
Yep. Okay, that's great. That's great. And the reason why it's great is because we're right next to Pinevale Conservation Area. And this would be a meaningful change in that pest management plan. That's all I have.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Before you start, can you?
Yes, I'm Jennifer Queen, I'm the owner of 12 Pineville Ave. I mean, I'm not saying anything that probably hasn't been heard before, but I just want to highlight that one major concern that we've raised at the CPDC meetings is just as was mentioned, the condition of the trash management of the local businesses currently. And I just I've sent some photos, some videos, and I just really want to highlight that the dumpsters that are not being well managed right now are resulting in trash being distributed across the conservation land. So I did send a video, I can send it again. But I think anyone that walks that property can see that it is a problem. And the concern is that it will be even larger problem with the addition of, when we double the dumpster capacity in our neighborhood. So, I know that they are allowed to have dumpsters and they need to have dumpsters, but, based on the history of this neighborhood, the issues that the neighbors have had with rodents, and with the fact that we have not adequately been able to have any of these issues addressed, I do think that we know that this will be a problem in the future. And, so I would just put that to the commission. I mean, if you guys can just consider that as you guys review the plans and make your decision. I and my neighbors would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the public?
It's probably too early.
My name's Linda McKenzie. I'm from 7 Pinevale Ave, across the street from 10 Pinevale. I had a question that was brought up last time that really kind of threw me, because it was emphasized that they would lower the level of the lot because it's elevated. And then someone brought up, I believe you brought up the idea that there's going to be a retaining wall on the side where Coleman is. And I think at the time when we talked about the fence, the person that we're speaking to said it would be a 4-foot retaining wall. So right now, that is all level. So I don't understand, how did we get from, lower to higher to 4 feet? And the other issue I have is, we talked about the dumpster not being in the buffer zone. There's a dumpster there now from Coleman. And I don't think he said where the dumpster would be, but like I said, I haven't seen the plans and I'm not even sure. That's one of the advantages of having people who can read plans, because I wouldn't have known that that was a retaining wall except you brought it up last week. So those are some of the issues, but another, use the word rodenticide. I have a little dog. So, and Jen has a little dog, and we all have animals, not to mention the animals that already live there. So I have questions about that. We're going to keep it in the interior. there are all kinds of animals in the area. So I'm worried about rats, but rodenticide is, to me, rat poison, so I'm a little worried about that. And I don't know what the plan is, but I hope we're gonna look into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think it needs to be said that out of all the issues that you brought up, the only ones that the Conservation Commission can consider is the one that's inside of our jurisdictional area. So the fence, the, whatever it else was, the berm, all those questions, if they're not within the jurisdictional area, which is that small 1,700 square foot piece where there's only about 350 square feet of impervious surface, that's where we're looking. But yeah, what I've heard about rodenticides is that the applicant has accepted that, or this is what I'm told, we need to see the pest management plan. And so you don't want rodenticides, you want something else. And that will make sure that everything's safe out there. And I think you brought that up, but you're just supporting that no rodenticides. So that's all. I mean, some of the other questions about lowering the building and all that, that's not within conservation's jurisdiction.
It's not right in that area though.
No, there's only a small portion. So if it's a building they're lowering, it has no effect on that 1,700 square foot area.
And if I may, Chuck, it sounds like she thinks we're putting the retaining wall in to lift the site. We're actually putting the retaining wall in because there's a giant berm between the two projects and we need to lower it. So we're going to be the lower side of the retaining wall, not the higher side. I think that might have been her concern.
And I think Coleman, that's the building next door. They're not in front of us right now, so we can't, we're going to just talk about this project and we can look at that. If there's trash getting into the wetland, we could do a site visit for that, or we could do an enforcement action. We could look at that area, but not as we're looking at this application.
But the property that you're talking about, that you have jurisdiction over is right next to it. Is that true?
Carlton, could you bring that plan up so we could just highlight that area? So we have to not only stay within our jurisdiction, but we have to stay within the property that's in front of us right now. And so it's really, it's that area there. And if Carlton showed you like the final plan, that's the area where there's some pavement and one parking spot, and the rest is planted with, with like new vegetation that I think he said they're saving 3 of the existing trees that are out there. Yeah, it's basically right there. That's all. Anything beyond that green is staying the exact same right now, and it will be the same way when the project's finished. On the outside, on the inside, it's going to turn into what you see on the plan.
Okay. Are there any other comments from the public? Hearing none, we know we have a number of things we still need to get. The plans itself, the tree survey document, pest management report. Is there anything else that we need to be looking for?
Drainage report and the wetland review, which I'll provide to the commission. And I don't know, Carlton, do you have any comments that you made on top of LEC's review? Oh, you're muted.
No, I didn't. He mentioned in there that there's little chance that I'm putting words in his mouth, but I can't remember. But it was basically saying there's very little chance there's a vernal pool in there because it's not going to pool high enough. And then the flag should be moved 10 feet upland. I think those are the only 2 comments of significance I saw in the report.
So since that's the case, I'll just provide that report to the commission and upload that to the website.
Okay, so given that, Carlton, would you be okay with a continuation to the next meeting?
I would. And if if you think if we had enough time to review the plans that we would be at a chance to vote that night, or would you think you're gonna need another round?
All things being equal, we could, kind of depends on what we see, but,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, can I
I
have,
move to continue the hearing for 252, 262 Pinevale, sorry, Main Street 10 Pinevale to the next meeting.
April 10th.
anybody?
Second.
So that's motion by Tony, second by Andy. Can I have a vote? Walter?
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Andy Driven in favor?
Tony Riddlelock in favor.
Brian, go in favor?
Martha Moore in favor.
Okay, so that's, what is that? 5-0-0? Yes. A roll call vote. Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Thank you all
Carl.
for your time. Good night.
So next we have 47 Hemlock.
Yep.
Jack Sullivan.
So I will read 47 Hemlock because it's new. Open the public hearing on request for determination of applicability filed by David and Jessica McCourt under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Paragraph 40, and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes to construct a new asphalt driveway, removing existing asphalt driveway and provide transitional site grading within 100 feet of an intermittent stream. The proposed addition to an existing single-family house is located outside the 100-foot buffer zone to bank and land underwater. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, and on the Conservation Division page under project by year, Assessors Map 7, Lot 15, file number 2024-1. Jack?
Yep. Thank you, commission members. For the record, my name is Jack Sullivan. I'm owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group. Chuck, are you able to put up the plan?
Sure. Here we go.
Okay, thank you. Yep, so as the chairman read into the record, the owners are proposing to construct an attached addition. It's going to be a garage. The entire addition is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone to the intermittent brook. This property is located right at the end of Hemlock Road. It's an existing single-family home with a paved driveway. So for this project, they're going to look to remove the existing driveway. A portion of that driveway falls within the 100 feet of the brook. That area will be landscaped. It'll be loamed and seeded. And then they're looking to construct a new driveway to access the proposed addition. This driveway will pitch back from the roadway to the addition. So there's a need to put in a trench drain so that water doesn't enter the garage unit. Coming out of that trench drain, there'll be a 6-inch pipe. And I proposed a pop-up emitter, which is basically at the end of the 6-inch pipe, there'll be an elbow, a 90-degree elbow, and then there's an emitter which goes flat onto that pipe. And then when water enters that pipe, it'll pop that top open and it goes into a grassed area. So it'll spread the water in a grassed area. I did look at doing some infiltration in this area, but we did dig a test hole out at the site. There was a lot of peat, not really suitable for recharge here. So that's why typically you see I put in some sort of recharge mechanism. So in this case, I just wanted to make sure water didn't get into the garage, that it can be dispersed into a grassed area and then slowly allowed to go back into the ground. We are proposing a 12-inch diameter mulch sock at the limit of work line. The closest portion of the work to the brook is 65 feet from the new driveway. There are 2 catch basins in Hemlock Road that we'd be that I've asked the contractor to put the silt sack on each of those for protection of those catch basins. So as I stated, additions outside of 100 feet, the trench drain's basically outside of 100 feet, but the driveway, some transitional grading, that's really what we're looking at for this project. And I will turn it back to the commission for any questions they might have.
Okay, we did a site visit on Monday. Does anybody want to quickly talk to the record what we saw?
We took a site visit on Monday. First thing we looked at was the wetland delineation line, and we did have some questions about it. While the line of inland bank seemed to follow the stream channel, there is a portion where a culvert discharges or confluences with the stream kind of at the bottom of the circle. And that part of the channel did not seem to be flagged. If you're drawing a straight line between the flags, it cuts off where the bank bends in toward the culvert. Also, the flow conditions in the stream upstream of that confluence were pretty substantial. And we had some questions as to whether that was actually, if that was actually an ephemeral stream. From the figure that's included in the application, where you've circled the site location, you've also circled right over where the stream is. So it's hard to read from the figure whether the stream is indicated as being permanent or not on the USGS map. And if that is in fact a permanent stream, now we're starting to talk a little bit about riverfront area. And if that line along the culvert gets pushed toward the house by, what did we estimate, approximately
12, 15.
15, 18 feet or so, how that might influence your construction plans.
Well, that would change things a lot, obviously. When I first did the survey work on this project, I went in to see Chuck because I thought this was a perennial brook. And I went and met with him, and he said, no, that portion that I'm showing is intermittent. It's much further down the brook where then it transitions to a perennial stream, well outside of 200 feet from this project. Based on stream stats, there was a determination that this brook was intermittent. So therefore, I said, okay, I mean, based on that, then it seems suitable for an RDA. Because at first I thought maybe it was perennial, but I guess there was another study in the past, maybe Chuck can talk on that, but it changed the whole direction of this project, because if this was a perennial river, then obviously, some of this work would be within the 100-foot inner riparian, and we'd have performance standards, and it'd be a whole different project. So this project took a whole different direction when it was determined to be intermittent.
So, yeah, that determination was made simply by going to stream stats when the not soccer, but softball field wanted to put in their sign. What is that sign called? The scoreboard. They wanted to put in a scoreboard and a fence. And so it was important to determine where the perennial stream creates. So it's almost at the edge of the softball field. So that is something that I went to StreamStats and did, not this year, but I think that was last year or maybe a year and a half ago. So that's how that was been determined. We've kind of stuck with that based on other projects on that softball field.
Anything else?
Those are the major issues that.
Okay. So that's a summary. Anybody have any questions?
Well, I do actually agree with Tony saying that you don't flag a wetland straight across from B3 to B2. It goes up to the culvert and then it drops back down again. So that's something to discuss for sure.
I agree with that. It should go to the culvert. I don't think it makes a huge difference in this project, but it should reflect that way.
Andy.
I'm just going to go back to the intermittent stream, because this is the same stream that continues down to where we were talking about on Walnut.
Yep.
So I don't fully understand where I mean, I would like to see how you came to that determination, that at this point it's intermittent, but not much farther down, it becomes perennial.
Yeah, so it's based on watershed, the watershed size, as you go down the stream, the watershed increases. But when you use stream stats, that's what it does. You just put a pin on the stream and it does a calculation for you, and you just keep moving it down until you come up with a perennial stream. That's the easiest way to say it. But I could show you the aerial photo if, and then we could talk about where this happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with that fancy stuff, but when I look at Mass GIS, it shows up as a stream.
Yeah, so there's a couple ways in the Wetlands Protection Act that you can determine perennial streams. Stream stats seems to be pretty reliable, and you can introduce that into these meetings. But the solid blue line, a thicker blue line, the USGS is one. That's probably what you saw.
Yeah.
But you also have to think about your personal observations, and then you can bring in stream stats to that also. So you can also go to Mass Mapper and get the same information. I don't know if you're doing that now because you're usually quick with that, but
I'm not at Mass Mapper yet, but I am looking at the regulations, 310 CMR 1058. Under the performance standards, I think it's a lot of subsections here. Subsection 2.1, I think, 2A1. A river or stream shown as perennial on the current USGS or more recent map provided by the department is perennial. And I think you go to stream stats if the stream is shown as intermittent or not shown on the current USGS map.
yeah.
With the watershed restrictions. But I haven't seen a USGS map that I'm satisfied with. I know there was a site locus map included in the application, but it's a black and white, and there's a lot of scribbling and circling around. Covers up the area.
So let's just make sure we look at the plan first. So, I agree, and I know it says that, but I think there's a lot of latitude given to the Conservation Commission to take in, other information, and Mass Mapper and stream stats is, a better term, a big deal. And a lot of people use that to determine where you are with these streams. With that said, I'm going to let you know that this is the, sorry.
Hey, this is David McCord. I'm the property owner at 47 Hemlock. Could I just get a definition of intermittent?
Yeah, well, we don't have a way to put it on the screen.
Well, what the Wetland Protection Act regulations do define is a perennial stream. They start with that, and they define it as a river or stream shown as perennial on the current USGS, that's the United States Geological Survey, or more recent map provided by the Department of Environmental Protection, is perennial. So if it's shown on a USGS map as a solid blue line, that's perennial. If it's shown as intermittent, which is a dotted line on the USGS map, or if it's not shown at all, then there are options for figuring out whether it's perennial or not.
What does intermittent mean?
Oh, in plain English?
Yeah.
Intermittent means that it dries up.
Yeah.
Outside, not including a drought year, but if other streams in the area carry water, this one may not under normal conditions.
Okay. I mean, I've been at this property for 3 years and I've never seen a summer where water was running before that culvert. So I'm just not sure how intermittent, I guess, would be defined based on what we're looking at.
All right, so there's another test that we can do here to help us out. And that's when a stream runs through a culvert more than 200 feet long, it's, it loses its jurisdiction. So when it comes out of that culvert, it casts forward from that culvert, but not back.
Right.
Only the wetlands, only the 100-foot buffer zone does that. So from that culvert, you can't go backwards anyways.
I don't think we're measuring from the culvert. We're measuring from the open channel on the opposite side of Hemlock.
If you look at the plan, it shows a straight line between the two flags. There's reality, there's a outlet where a culvert comes in. It goes about 12 feet.
Sure.
And so that's what we're saying is theoretically the flag should be at the mouth of the culvert.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We're not measuring from.
I didn't hear about this. This is the first time hearing about, there was a question about intermittent or perennial. And
2 issues on table.
I think it's easily solved. I don't know if,
Can we get a USGS map up? That'd be the easiest way to solve it.
We're looking at.
yeah,
I don't have a subscription to the most.
I think you guys are locked into something that's known to be wrong. But yeah, if Andy, you looked and this is a solid line on this USGS map, I think we need to leave it at there and we need to come back at the next meeting with some, some more information from the applicant proving that it's intermittent. Because I know that Jack.
I think if we provided the stream stat calculation and the owner just stated in the summer, he's seen this dry 3 summers in a row. So in non-drought conditions, I've had other towns where if you're able to document that in the stream stat supports that, they don't, that overrules if it's in blue. At least that's how some other commissions have looked at it.
Maybe where I'm getting it from, but yeah, I don't think anyone's ever just really relied on one piece of evidence. And I didn't get a chance to review that.
So given these questions, we don't know how they're going to be resolved. It doesn't make any sense to me to go forward with assumptions either way. So I think we are going to want to continue to buy some time to look into this, to look at the culvert, to understand the intermittency or not of the stream more. To look at whatever Andrew looked at and compare that to stream stats and make a final determination as to whether it's intermittent.
So it sounds like a determination was already made through stream stats, correct? And I mean, I don't know how I could prove that now since it's the spring, that the water would be dry. It doesn't sound like you have access to this map. So what would the next steps be?
So if you're asking what our approach would be, is we would need to go look at a map. And Chuck's already aware of what StreamStat says, so I guess we should confirm that. And based on those 2 pieces of information, we'll have an idea of to whether to decide that it's intermittent or perennial. Personally, I'm not worried about the flagging issue with the culvert, because even from there, there's a good distance away, so we could talk about it, but it doesn't seem to be an urgent issue. The real question here is the intermittency. That's the word.
Yeah, if I could see a USGS map or a recent map provided by the department that shows it's not perennial, then we defer to stream stats. If we have that already done, then we have that already done. I just couldn't tell from the site locus map. I'm glad you provided a site locus map, but I just couldn't tell from it.
So I would.
It's not in color. It's not in color.
I don't.
And you've circled over it.
Kind of, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at Mass GIS, not US, their online website.
Mr. Chairman, the Martha Moore has had her hands up for a long time.
I can't see
Sorry,
that.
I can't see her. Martha, why don't you go ahead while Chuck's looking something up?
Sure, thanks. I had a couple of questions, regardless of what the final answer is with the intermittent versus perennial stream. And those have to do with soil stockpile and material stockpile locations. I don't see them marked on the plan. Jack, do you have a plan for that stuff?
Well, I know the equipment will be stored on the driveway. And the addition's just a slab on grade. So any material dug from there will be just loaded out. So I didn't have a soil stockpile area. But the equipment will be on the existing driveway.
Okay. And will you be doing anything to build a construction entrance going in to construct the new driveway? Any way to
Yes.
protect
Yep.
erosion?
Yep, and that's a good point, Martha. I'll add that to the plan, but yeah, they'll have to put in a crushed stone construction entrance and until that's paved. So I'll add that construction entrance detail.
Okay, and then my last question does have to do with this perennial or intermittent question. And is there precedent that we have accepted in the past that further downstream, this stream was intermittent based on when they were talking about things in Sturgis Park scoreboard and stuff? And does past precedent hold any weight in this situation? And I guess that's a question for Chuck.
This is USGS website. Just the stream doesn't show
Okay. So while you were talking, Martha, Tony has looked up a USGS map.
Yes, so I've gone to the USGS website, to their topographical map database, and the stream does not appear to become perennial until, it's tough to tell from the scale, but it's downstream of the end of Hemlock Road.
Okay. So then you're satisfied with it being intermittent in this area that we're discussing?
Yes.
Okay.
What's that?
I'll save you my consulting to that, but I trust.
Thank you for looking that up.
I'm gonna send you a brief, sure. Okay.
Are there any other questions from any of the commission members?
Hey, Tony, this is a sidebar. Send us like the commission's hot link.
Yeah.
In case this comes up again.
But that should be part of the,
Well, that should be, right, that should be part of the application.
yeah, not your stream stats you did a year and a half for a different project.
It's the same thing.
But this is a map.
And to be honest with you, someone should mention it so this stuff can get, discussed instead of surprises. It's like throwing a bomb into something. But yeah, I will. Yeah, it would be nice to have that stuff available. But again, no one said that there was an issue.
It's a question, it's not an issue.
No.
Well, when you read the application and it says it's a perennial stream and it's known that you got to send these questions out because this would, I think it's something that people do, like, hey, let someone know that, you're questioning some part of the jurisdiction. I think it would help a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So any other questions from the commission? Any questions, comments from Chuck?
No, I'm glad we got this far, but let's focus back in on this project because it seems to be we have the jurisdictional area set now. Are there any other, like you said, are there any other concerns?
Tony, do you have concerns that moving the flags to the mouth of the culvert would affect the project? As
It would.
No, and if it's just an RDA, then we don't need a, yeah, so I'm fine with that.
Okay. Any comments from the public? All right. Seems like then we can entertain a motion to vote on whether this is an RDA or not. Whether it's a acceptable or not. Can I have a motion for that?
Make a motion for a negative determination for 47 Hamla.
This is Tony, I'll second that.
Okay, vote. Walter, you want to start?
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Okay. Okay, so I think we're all set. Negative determination says you can go ahead with the project. And I guess we're on to the next hearing.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack. Next hearing is 71 Lila Lane. I'll read the blurb. Open the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by Paris Pamela Daskalakis pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant is proposing construction of a 11-foot by 30-foot addition and 6-foot by 10-foot portico, small patio expansion, and new front walkway within a 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year. Assessors map 55, lot 18, DEP file number 270-0783. Who do we have here for the applicant?
Jack Sullivan?
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, Jack, do you want to take us through it?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. For the record, Jack Sullivan, Sullivan Engineering Group. On this project, the BVW is flagged by Maureen Herald of Norse Environmental, and the submitted as part of this application. This work is a buffer zone project. We show a construction entrance over the existing paved driveway that will access where they're going to dig for the addition, the 11 by 30 addition. To provide some stormwater mitigation, I show the pitch of the roof. It's pitching off to the side, so we're putting in a 2-foot wide by 1 foot deep drip trench to offer some stormwater mitigation. There's an existing paver patio at the rear of the house. They're basically looking to extend that over to tie in with the new addition. The edge of that patio will be right at your 35-foot no structure zone. There are no trees to be cut as part of this project. No soil stockpiling is to occur. Whatever is dug out, whatever is excavated will have to be removed. There's only some slight transitional site grading to match the addition into the existing site topography. There will be a 12-inch diameter mulch sock set up along the limit of work line. As the chairman mentioned, DEP did issue a file number for this, so that's a good thing. And the front walkway will be a paver walkway. There's an existing walkway there now, but they're going to build a new one. And I show the footprint of how that will look, and the porticos within the 100 feet as well. I turn it over to the commission for any questions you might have.
Great, thanks, Jack. Again, we did a site visit on Monday. Somebody want to fill us in on that, please?
You're gonna tell me now?
I wasn't there.
You were there for part of it, right? So we were there on Monday and we walked to, there's a site with a large grade from the front of the house, which is higher, down to the back where the wetlands are. We walked, there's an existing ninja course and some trees. It's a funny, very deep property, funny shaped, I should say, in the way that it's angled. We did take note of what's called there, the existing cobblestone edging, which is a fire pit. And we're trying to judge if it was on their property or not. It's funny, when you look at it on the map, it looks like it's completely not, but on site, it looks like it is, but that's not our purview. So we did walk the wetland lines. We were able to find most, if not all, of the flags. And yeah, so that's, everything looked pretty okay. I mean, that's things we could discuss. I don't think there was anything of note that was questionable from flags themselves, but there was definitely some. This is one that's really wet back there, right? Or is that the next one?
That's the next one.
Okay. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, let's open it to questions and comments. Walter, do you have anything you want to bring up?
My only thought was the drain pipes coming off the current house went into the ground, and I don't know where they went, but now you're adding the retaining section there. Is that going to overload where the pipe under, where the tubing or pipe under the ground is? I assume that's perforated and is already adding to the groundwater.
I don't have information on that, Walter. I don't know where that pipe goes once it goes into the ground. Where is it, in the back left corner of the existing house, right off the rear corner by the existing patio?
Yes, and there's one a little bit further to the right on this diagram as well that goes into the ground. I'm just, my thought was, is that adding too much water to the ground level in light of what you're proposing?
I don't think it'll impact it, but they may, when they look to build that new patio, they'll have to take some care where that pipe is underground, that they don't disturb it.
That was my only concern.
Okay.
Anybody else? Martha, what do you have?
Sure. I had a couple of things. I am concerned about that fire circle in the back because it is inside the 35-foot no structure zone and even possibly inside the 25-foot buffer, maybe just barely inside the 25-foot buffer. So somebody said it wasn't really our concern. Yes, it's not our concern whether it's over the property line, but it is a little bit our concern if it's a structure inside the no structure zone. So something to think about. We also noticed that there's a line of stones, not really a stone wall, but sort of a row of stones embedded at the back of the property, approximately on the 25-foot line. And we had a discussion about that, whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. It seems to me maybe that line of stones prevents lawn creep. So maybe it's a good thing. But near there was quite a bit of buckthorn. And over on the side, closer to the neighbors, on the side near flags 1A, 2A, 3A, there were what looked to me like garlic mustard starting to come up. So this homeowner may want to work on mitigating the construction by removing some of the invasive plants. And I don't think it belongs to the homeowner, but somebody has put 2 lawnmowers down behind the fence between the homeowner and the neighbor in the area of 1A, 2A, 3A on that side. that don't seem to be being in use, and they don't really seem like they belong in a wetland. There's also a fair amount of yard waste in that side of the property where it's the wettest. So I would love to see the homeowners make sure that yard waste is not being pushed off to the side where the wetland flags are. I have no issue with the new portico on the front because I think that's basically the same footprint as the old front steps. We're just putting a roof over top of it. So I have no problem with that. And I think those were all my concerns that were not already addressed. Oh, yeah, the Ninja line seems to be badly choking one of the trees it's attached to. So it might be healthier for the tree if the homeowners are not using that Ninja line anymore to take it down, or at least to move it so it's not choking the same spot on the trees. And do you have a plan for material stockpiling?
No soil stockpiling. I put a note on the plan, no soil stockpiling to occur.
Yeah, what about construction materials?
It'll have to be trucked off.
Construction materials.
I did not show an area, but we could do it to the right of the existing driveway in that grass, yeah, outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay.
And is there any answer about the fire pit with the cobblestone edging back there?
I'll leave it up to the commission. I did let the owner know. It didn't look that old to me when I was out doing the survey work. And like one of the members said, it's surprising the lot lines out there. They're tough to tell where the lot lines are. I would think they'd want to relocate that onto their property. And if they do want to do that, it should be, at least 35 feet from the wetland. So I don't think we'd have a problem saying that should be relocated onto the property and keep it 35 feet away.
That works for me. I'm done.
Okay. Tony, Anthony?
Nothing for me.
No, thanks, Martha. Yeah. I did lots of what you said. For the fire pit, I was commenting more on the property ownership rather than its relationship to the wetlands. So yeah, I should have said there is a line of rocks that roughly follows the 25-foot line, but it's kind of generous. It merges much closer than 25 feet in spots, especially close to where the new proposed addition is on the left side of the plan. So one, I do support moving the fire pit out of the 35-foot wetland zone. I think that's a good idea. And it also solves a property issue. It's a double win. And I would like to see some of that. I'm fine with the rock wall. I think it's a healthy thing, but where we are closer to the new proposal to make sure that there is 25-foot of natural vegetation of no build, and then we actually have that clearly established. It may be there. I'm from my own photos, it looks like it may be a little bit pushing closer to 10 to 15 feet. So just establishing the full 25-foot zone of natural vegetation would be my preference.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. One thing I want to add is Martha's being kind in saying that there's a fair amount of yard waste. There's a lot. In fact, it has begun to fill the resource itself, and I think that needs to be adjusted. Just taking it out, in my mind, means you get into some kind of restoration, not just mitigation. It looks like there's a point of land that's built up and stepping on it, it's spongy like you would expect from yard waste fill. And it seems to be unnaturally protruding into the water, which is why I think that it's built up. It's in the same area where the two dead lawnmowers are. And also around those lawnmowers, there's a length of PVC pipe that's just coiled around it. So all that should come out. Martha made a good point. Couldn't tell from looking at it whether it's on their property or the neighbor's property, but we need to have an answer to that.
Brian, Walter has his hand up also.
Okay, sorry for skipping you, Walter.
No problem. Just a quick footnote about that circle. If we're going to relocate, which I think it should be, can it be made of permeable material? That's it.
That's a consideration.
The way it is right now, Walter, wasn't it gravel? Would you consider that permeable?
Yeah, it was just gravel, but we didn't dig it out to see if there was something underneath.
Yeah, got it.
I think it would be put back the same way, just the cobblestone edging with crushed stone. So the crushed stone would be permeable. It's not like a solid surface.
No, Jack, I think the question is, it wasn't clear if there was anything underneath the gravel. If it is just gravel.
Oh,
Yeah.
I understand. I understand Walter's point. Yeah, we'd make sure that the water can get through.
Okay. That was the only comment I had. So Chuck, do you have anything you want to add?
I don't, but I will let the commission know I'm not clear on the conditions, and I wasn't clear on Andy's condition about establishing the entire ZNV or checking it.
Well, if we establish the entire site is encroaching within 25 feet, I think that might be asking a bit much for them to reestablish 25 feet, but especially at where their new proposal is on that left side, I would like to make sure that we are getting 25 feet. If it's not, it may be already 25 feet.
Are you asking to fill in what's not there with the planting plan?
If needed. So I'm not sure. I didn't do like a thorough walkthrough in that zone, but
From the
if you walk the whole site, they're definitely encroaching within 25 feet.
Yeah, there's
And that's what I noted on site, but now after thinking about it, I think that's asking, I wasn't ever gonna ask them to reestablish the whole 25 foot. I mean, that's just a lot.
But just on that one side, yeah, I see that. That looks like it would be, the addition's 35 feet long plus whatever the paver is in the back, and maybe that much Z and V could be reestablished. And I'm not sure if the tree row is accurate, but if it is, there's some more planting that could be done in that area.
Yeah, I guess I'm asking for some small planting to reestablish the 25 foot. That edge.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, that wasn't clear.
No, I think it's good now. Yeah, I think it's.
Leave that out on the spot.
So I have the Nidja line is choking a tree, move it up or move it altogether. Jack's made a statement that there's no soil stockpiling on site and the construction debris will be removed as it's being dismantled. If there's something to accumulate to construction debris, it'll go right into a truck. The fire pit cobblestone with the crushed stone needs to be reestablished outside the 35-foot buffer zone, and it needs to be permeable. And then where the area is on the 25-foot line next to the property, to present a planting plan to the Conservation Commission that they'll accept. There's a pipe somewhere that needs to be rolled up and disposed of.
Yeah, it's crawled around two dead lawnmowers over the fence on the back left of the property.
Did the lawnmowers need to go too?
it has to be determined whether they're theirs or their neighbors. Either way they should go. The question is who we ask to do it.
And did I miss anything?
Yes, you also, Jack agreed to put the building material piles on the corner of the property to the right of the driveway.
Yep.
And when they're reestablishing a zone of natural vegetation, I'd like to see them remove the buckthorn and garlic mustard as much as possible.
The only other one I have was Walter's question about the storm downspout and where that went. Is there any way you could get an answer for us, Jack, as far as these pipes that go into the ground? We did see one that came out as you're facing the house way to the back right. The two on the other side of the house, we didn't see any exits. So if you get an answer for that, so we know how the water is handled currently, so we know if there's an impact from water from the addition.
I can check with the homeowner.
Okay.
My guess is they probably don't know where it goes, but I can check.
Okay, I mean,
I don't think they're on this. I don't think they're on this meeting tonight. If they are, they can speak up, but I don't think they're on.
they're fairly substantial downpipes. So it's possible it's a lot of rainwater. I don't know. I get Walter's point though. Okay. So then.
We have some information needed.
Right, so we need to continue to get that information. Doesn't sound there's too much. A lot of things were agreed to that Jack's going to get agreement from the homeowner on. Jack's going to get information on the downspout. Ideally, we get information from the homeowner on those deadly lawnmowers over the fence.
And planting plan.
Planting plan in agreement to move the fire circle. Because you said you're sure they would go along with it or whatever, but just double check and get them to know that that's moving. All right, so we need a continuation then. So can I have a motion to continue this?
Make a motion to continue 71 Lila. Do we need Jack's approval?
Yes, actually, Jack? Jack, you there? Jack?
That's, I mean, we can continue to address those.
You were kind of breaking up. Are you okay with continuing?
Yes, I'm okay with continuing. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Andrew. I'll make a motion to continue 71 Lila Lane. Is the next meeting okay, Joe?
Jack, is the next meeting okay? April 10th?
Shaking his head, yes.
Okay.
To the April 10th meeting.
I second that. This is Tony.
Take me to vote. Walter, you want to start us?
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Rainbow in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Okay.
All right, Jack, we're all good. I hope we weren't too rough on you.
Still one more.
No, thank you. I'll see everyone April 10th.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Okay, next one is 44.
Bye.
Let them in, Chuck, and I'll read the blurb.
Sure.
Open the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by Jesse Birnbaum pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Northern Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant is proposing construction of a pool and fence within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetlands. The application plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year, Assessors Map 28, Lot 131, DEP file number 270-0782. Is there anybody here from the applicant?
So Jesse's here.
Yes, I'm here. Jesse Berman on 44 Jaquesset Road. Thank you for having me. And then Aiden would be working, the one
Yeah.
representing us.
Aiden, thank you. Yeah, here we go. All right, Aiden, you're all set. You want to update the commission? I can put up the plan, or unless you want to do that.
I can put up the plan. I have it ready.
Okay, sure.
Just for the record, I'm Aiden Schlotman with Stamsky and McNary. I'm the representative for the project.
Actually, could you say that again? We couldn't quite hear you. Can you repeat that introduction of yourself?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Aiden Schlotman. I'm with Stamsky and McNary. I'm the representative for the applicant, Jesse Birnbaum.
Thank you.
I will share my screen and show everyone the plan. Hopefully everyone can see this. Very straightforward and minor project here. We're just requesting the construction of a proposed pool, as you can see here. And then with this pool, it's required that we add in a fence as well. The pool is going to require minor regrading to be done, just to make sure that it's on a flat surface, not just pitching and spilling all the water out. Siltation barrier has been proposed, down gradient of any construction to prevent any indirect altercation of the resource area. And to offset mitigation or offset impacts, we've proposed a mitigation area full of native straight species cultivar here. That is right up against the wetland zone, replacing a lawn area. We have proposed 5 high bush blueberries and 4 arrowwoods for the native plantings that will be there. We are not proposing any trees to be removed. I know it kind of looks like it's within the tree line there, but it's more canopy than it is the actual location of trees. So no trees are proposed removed with the construction of this fence here. Like I said, very straightforward project. I'm happy to hear if the commission has any comments.
Okay, thank you. Questions and comments? We'll start. Walter, you have anything for us?
Something I thought about after our visit the other night was, okay, it's not a very big pool, but with all the rain we get, how do you compensate for the pool overflowing and putting chlorinated water into the ground?
Well, the pool wouldn't be all the way filled up to the top. Usually you have a foot or two of barrier. It'd have to take a lot of rain going through a cover, which would also not be fully permeable, to then sit down and raise the water that high.
Okay.
Anything else? Anybody else? Walter, sorry, Andy, you have anything?
Sure. We did visit the site on Monday, and we could see this is a site that is very wet in the back. And the area that was marked off as wetland seemed clearly to be wetland, but it also seemed the area that's currently marked as lawn is more of a moss than a lawn for a portion of it until it gets farther up. And I think there's some comments on soil there, if that is itself very wet. But it's the project itself, the pool's it's unusually small, which that's fine. And it's so far from the wetland that it doesn't impact it much. What it impacts potentially is the fence and where that is. So right now it looks like the fence is hovering by the 35-foot line, or is that the 20? It goes into the 25-foot line, which I'm understanding that's okay as long as it's allows some space underneath for animals to crawl. But it also looks like it's going through the tree line, which just wanted some. Is that the actual proposal? While I have you on the phone, is that the actual plan? Is to pull the fence along through the trees? on the side of the house, like, the side of the yard, like I see in the drawing?
I'm not sure if it's proposed to weave through the trees at all. That tree line is more canopy than it is the actual line itself. But I'm not 100% sure, but regardless of the fact, it's definitely proposed that no trees will be removed during the process of the installation of the fence.
The fence was also planned to be a picket fence, and there's on the O'Rourke side, there's a fence that already goes all the way to basically what we would connect it to. And there's space between the trees that you could put in a relatively small fence. That would also allow the leeway both as pickets and also on the bottom to allow small animals to pass through.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yep.
Tony, you have anything?
You mentioned that you weren't going to be removing any trees, but your wetland delineation form indicates, and we verified this in the field, that there's a European buckthorn going right there at the edge of the wetted area. Would you consider removing that? European buckthorn is an exotic invasive species.
I suppose I'll leave that up to the applicant if he wishes to extend the project at all.
I mean, if that's an ask to have us remove an invasive plant, I mean, I'm not sure what the ask is because I have no idea what the plant you're referring to is.
It's easy to find. It actually has one of the blue wetland flags on it,
Oh, okay.
but we would want that to be removed.
Is there only one?
There's probably more, but it was a big guy.
Sure.
That was the only visible one. Did you want to comment
else?
on if the blueberries?
Yeah, I'm trying to look up right now the wetland status of the two plants, just to make sure that they can survive under the waterlogged soil conditions that we saw there. Do you have a sense, or does the applicant have a sense of how far up that water line comes and for how during the year the proposed plantings would be underwater?
So you probably saw it at its zenith, basically due to all the water we've recently had. But I've never seen it further up than what you saw on your visit on Monday. And that's included several of the major storms we've had over the past few years. Just for clarification, I've been in this house since 2017, and you probably saw it at the most waterlogged that I've ever seen the back area.
His point is that perhaps you need to reconsider the types of plants because although this is the worst it's been, it's not likely to be much better going forward. So you may still have a problem with the survivability of those plants.
Yeah, when we issue the order of conditions, one of the conditions is that you need to have a certain percentage of survivability over a certain amount of time, and we'd hate to have you go through the trouble of buying something, planting it, and having it die. Then you have the added expense of having to replant it, and then the extended time of having to meet the standard.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me.
Right, so it's in your interest to double check that the plants that you've picked are suitable for the conditions for which you will plant them in.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Also, when we were out there, it looked like there were some plastic imitation bricks that were lining the sides of the open area, the grassy area that head back towards wetland flags 3 and 4. And some of them don't seem to be really functional anymore. And so if you're filling in zone of natural vegetation back there, I would like to see those bricks or fake bricks removed while you're planting the vegetation so that it gets rid of those unnatural things. And there's also maybe a couple of boards and a cinder block in that area behind the wetland flags. So while you're doing your planting and cleaning up, it would be good to get the boards and the cinder block out of the wetland. I will say we did not see piles of grass clippings and leaves back there, so that was a good thing. And again, the question I keep asking, construction entrance, soil stockpile, and material stockpile locations.
Yeah, those can absolutely be added. And soil stockpiling we're more than happy to have that taken completely outside of any buffer zone. Have it on the side yard here. I also think probably the side yard is probably the easiest point of access, as it has the most room for equipment to go in, and it's also closest to the proposed project there. And it doesn't get in the way of the swing set or anything. So definitely from the left side there, and we're more than happy to have any soil stockpiling taking place outside of the 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay, and if you're going to be digging up the dirt at all and possibly need a gravel construction entrance, that would be a Jack Sullivan question, but we want to just make sure that the dirt from digging up the area for the pool does not get carried out onto the street when you're coming in and out of the site. And then I just have one other thought. I always get worried when I see something like a swing set inside the same fenced area as the pool. And I would love to see you think about what you're going to do to make sure that the children playing on the swing set don't fall into the pool when they're playing on the swing set and the parents aren't out there supervising all the time. So a safety cover over the pool, or one of those pool safety fences that goes right around the pool itself, would give the kids more free reign of the backyard without danger to the children. So that's not a conservation issue, but I still always think about that when I see pools with the fence enclosing the whole play area of the backyard, as opposed to the fence just enclosing the pool. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Chuck?
Yeah, the only thing that I would mention is that I'm assuming you're going to use the left-hand side of the site to enter the back with machinery, and I was wondering what you're going to do to minimize compaction around the maple and spruce.
We're more than happy to have some sort of track pad there during construction, just to make sure we don't harm any roots that are there. Just something to disperse the load a little more for the heavy machinery if that's needed.
All right, that was all I had.
Okay.
Want to apologize. I was referring to Jack Sullivan, thinking he was the engineer on this project too, but it was actually Aiden I was asking about the construction entrance. So I apologize for that.
Okay. Any comments from the public? No. So is there anything here that we need to get before we move forward? What do you have?
Yeah, so you've asked about the bricks by flags 3 and 4, and removing cinder blocks, and then show on the plan construction entrance, stockpile area, and the construction stockpile. And you're going to add track pad on the plan showing that that's going to be part of the project. And the one thing that I did mention, probably say, I do have an additional comment. So this pool, it sounds like everyone's talking about it's chlorinated. Is there any discharge that happens in the wintertime to winterize this? Is it if we're going to continue this anyways, to get the notes on the plan, if you could provide a operation and maintenance plan for the winterizing of that pool, just so that everyone understands what's happening to any discharge that may happen.
Sure.
It may not be needed, and that might be the answer, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
So do you want to see, do you require a change in the planting plan, or you're just recommending that they consider it?
Just they recommend considering it.
Okay.
I mean, I think the high bush blueberry is okay because that's facultative wetland.
So then we have updated plans and we have the operations manual. So given that, we probably should continue to next meeting to allow those two things to happen and take it up at our next meeting. Is that okay with the applicant?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, then can I have a motion to that end?
I move to continue the hearing for 44. Request it to the next meeting, April 10th. Okay, what do we need?
Operations manual and updated plans.
A second.
Okay, Tony motion, Andy seconded. Can I have a vote, starting Walter?
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Brian Rowe in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks for coming. See you
Thank
next
you.
week.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, bye now.
Okay, so that's all the hearings.
And so we have a plan change from 550 West Street.
Yes. So I'll just do a little narrative on that. I went out there, do a site visit, Monday, with,
Why do that?
Scott.
Sorry about that. I just made you host. Can you just make me the host? I'll make you the co-host.
Yep, I'm more of a Teams guy, so give me a second. May want to walk me through it, Chuck?
Yeah, so find my where it says my name, go up to the
Yep.
three dots. And then
Make co-host or make host?
make host.
All right, should be all set.
You've been demoted, Scott. Okay, so we did a quick site visit. We looked at the area where Scott's proposing a minor plan change. While we're there, I did look at a couple of the areas where we had some issues the last time, namely the slash kind of back middle of the property and the extra soil, if you will, back left of the property. Both of those have been addressed. They look fine. As far as the plan change, it's pretty small, straightforward. I saw no issues. Walter, if you want to speak up, now would be a good time before I suggest something.
I'm gonna put up the plan too, so.
No, I'm okay with what you said.
We'll wait for Chuck to put the plan up. Okay. So it's in the cloud area. Scott, do you want to take over and just do a quick 2-minute description of that plan change?
Yeah, so in the original planting plan, didn't really call anything out other than the trees and the bushes that I'm going to be planting. So I guess technically on that plan, this would have been lawn area. Just in looking at it, it makes sense to kind of in between the addition and my existing patio, put a permeable paver system in kind of that back right corner of the house. There is a downspout that ties into the dry well in the back left corner of the addition. So my thought was to, when I'm putting in the permeable paver system, put a perforated pipe wrapped in Marafi, and then just put a T on the underground system and have that tie into the dry well as well.
Okay, thank you. So to finish what I was saying, so we looked at it. It is very straightforward. The other issues we had have been cleared up. So from my perspective, I think we should accept this as a minor plan change. Does anybody have any questions or comments before we move forward? Okay. So then we need a motion to vote on accepting a minor plan change. Someone want to give us a motion for that? How about you, Walter?
I move that we do a minor plan change to 550 West Street.
Anyone?
I'll second that. This is Martha.
Thank you. Okay, let's vote. Walter, you go first.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Andrew Driven, abstain.
Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, Scott, thanks.
Thank you very much.
I hope to never see you again.
No.
The feeling's mutual. No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're down to 41 Winter Street. Anyone's here for 41 Winter Street?
That was
Oh, is that Jack again? Maybe Jack's
disappeared. Oh, there he is.
Jack, you here for 41? I guess you are, right?
Yeah.
In fact, he was there when we visited.
Yep.
And he was
Okay, do you want to take us through it? Chuck, you-
again. Introduce yourself for the record, please.
Oh, sorry.
Sure. So, yep. So for the record, Jack Sullivan, owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group. And we're here before you for a minor plan change. I know I think I saw most of the commission members this week on site, but just so everyone knows, the originally approved plan had a garage on the left side of the house, and there's a 30-inch town tree that would have been right at the edge of the driveway. During the review process, the tree warden had concerns with that. Since it's a public tree, I think I broke up. I'm back.
You got them.
No, you're still there.
Yep. Since it's a public tree, he asked if there was a way to move that driveway further away from the tree. So what we came up with is we flipped the house. So the green line on the screen is the approved location of the house. The red is now the proposed. So the garage now goes to the right side. The driveways move further away. It's on the right side, kind of in the area where the existing paved driveway was. All other aspects of the plan are the same. We're still going to have the same drainage, grading, and the other site features. So this was really just generated trying to provide some additional protection for that town tree. And the town has concerns when they plow Winter Street, snow gets stockpiled at that intersection of Winter and Orange. And they thought it might make a safety issue with where the approved driveway was. So for those reasons, we're here before you for a minor plan change.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess the most important thing for us is I think there's less impact within the buffer zone, the 100-foot buffer zone, by flipping the driveway and building it on top of the existing driveway.
Already disturbed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions, comments from the commission? Anybody out there in Zoom land? Martha, Walter? Okay.
Yep, Martha's here.
Okay.
I do notice that there's a proposed deck sticking out behind the house and a proposed porch sticking out on the left side that are beyond the original green border, but the proposed porch is still outside the 35-foot line, and the proposed deck is still well outside the 35-foot line. So just noting that the house is going a little closer to our buffer zone, but I don't object to that.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Any comments from the general public? Hearing none. Can I have a motion to approve the minor plan change for 41 Winter?
This is Tony.
You ready?
Approve the minor plan.
For your SWCA update.
I second that.
Can I have a vote? Walter, you want to start us?
Walter Talbot's in favor?
I'm in favor.
Tony Woodalock.
Okay, got me thinking about it.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. The reason why I asked.
All right, thank you, members. Thank you.
Can I
first, and then you could do your presentation, because we have one more of these that came up.
That's fine.
Oh, it's good. So I told you it was a minor plan change. It's not. It's a determination to see if this can be administrative approval. And we're just gonna, okay, so.
Okay. So a question came up with the Reading Rifle and Revolver Club. They want to do something different than with the approved plan. They approached Chuck to see if it could be an administrative approval. Chuck, why don't you take a couple of minutes and explain this, please?
Sure, I'm gonna try to do this as fast as I can, but to, give me a second, yeah, just to get this on the screen. That comes up. Right, so the Rifle and Revolver Club, if you look at the screen in back of me on this side here to my right, as my back is to it, so I guess I'm going to say screen left. This box right here is where they built a new building. We approved that on a different order of conditions, and they came back and they wanted, because that when you upgrade a building, you need to put water and sewer in it, they had to run a new water and sewer line. We had agreed to and proposed water and sewer line that's in red. So it cuts out of the building and it goes across this area here. Hot right here in this degraded area, which is this like the skeet shooting range, and then down this driveway and then back out. And it connects right here, if you can see my cursor, right back into the blue. What they're proposing, because the contractor went out there and said, it's actually easier if we keep the excavation on the existing roadway. So they want to go down the existing roadway and skip going up into that skeet range, and then come out down here on still on the existing roadway, and then just cut in along the existing, well, the building that's built now at the, I guess it's an airsoft range. And so that's the change they want to do. If we look at this as a conservation commission, you can see that most of this is disturbed except for this one area that was proposed and that we agreed to run the pipe through this area. But now, I guess this would be considered quasi-undisturbed area, which is next to a construction. They always over excavate, so maybe it is disturbed at this point. But these two areas are approximately the same. So it's either less work, less disturbance, or at least equal to what we've already approved. So there's really nothing more to it than that.
And that's in buffer zone?
It's in buffer zone, yeah. There's a BVW right here. And up here, there's a BVW here, so you would be exactly the same distance from it on existing roadway.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
Makes sense to me.
Okay, I don't hear any comments or questions, so then can we have a motion to give Chuck, allow Chuck to do administrative approval for this change?
I move that we allow the town conservation agent to approve an administrative change.
I second.
Can we vote? Walter?
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Andrew Gibbon in favor.
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor? Martha?
More in favor.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, so that one's taken care of. So the next would be the SWEC update. And Andy has a presentation that was originally given by.
It will be given.
Will be
So
given,
We,
okay.
this is our final report that the SWEC committee has put together. And it will be, next Monday, we will be agreeing to finalizing it and presenting it and sending it off to the select board so that we could finish up the Simon's Way Exploratory Committee's job. Do you want me to stand up and then walk through it, or?
How does he sound out there, Martha and Walt?
Can you hear me?
You're fine talking from where you are.
Okay.
Okay, so
I wanted to
Do
do.
you need this?
I'll walk through this quick because there's only a few slides that, well, in my opinion, I really want to get your opinion, but we'll just go through it and I'll tell Chuck to go to the next. So go next. So introduction. So yep, SWEC was formed in 2022. That's when we first met in November. We were supposed to sunset in June. So hopefully we can get this done soon. Next. All us to say that we're supposed to give to select board our opinions of the best uses to serve as many residents as possible and ideas of how to potentially fund any ideas. So that's what we're trying to deliver here. Go ahead. So what we've done, we've put out a survey to try to figure out what people might want there. There are some schematic drawings done by SV Design. We're trying to figure out what can fit on the site. And they were very generic just in terms of building footprint or fields. In 2023 of March, it was agreed that there was some comments made in the public that there's a lot of land outside of this specific area we were looking at that we should consider. So then in the May 2023, we presented, or Carl presented to the select board to expand our charge. Specifically really was looking at the land behind Burbank, but also taking into consideration the other areas, open spaces that surround the Simon's Way area. And then last week, we put out an RFI looking for some public-private partnerships, and we got one response, which I'll talk about later. Next slide. One of the things we really tried to talk about while we were waiting for and developing an RFI was how we were going to figure out what we wanted to put on the site. Like, what is our criteria? How do we judge anything that we put before us? So these are the things that we determined are the most important to the group as a committee. We talked this through, and one, we wanted to be able to be used by lots of people. So not just a single use thing. Being an intergenerational use was huge, especially since there's a lot of talk about a senior center somewhere in town. So we want that to be a big part of whatever happens on Simon's Way. It seems straightforward, but it hopefully meets a demonstrated need. We're not just putting something there because we can. And it's important that this is owned by town and that we don't sell it off, that even if it's a public-private partnership, that the town maintains ownership of the land. Number 5 says minimal taxpayer expenses. And if there are any taxpayer expenses, that we're doing it in a fiscally responsible way. And then lastly, is compatible with surrounding uses. That one, we won't really talk about later, but one of the things that clearly kind of put off the table was like whole housing. We decided with the ice rink and the rifle range that we just talked about, housing didn't seem compatible. So that was one of those potential uses that we were able to say, nope, doesn't seem to fit here. All right, next. So we had some community input as we were going to the meetings. People came before us. Black Earth Compost was considering it, but they thought the area that we were looking at was too small. Pickleball was big and it remains big, trying to find space for some courts anywhere that they possibly can. Reading Youth Lacrosse wants more practice fields. There's been concern about the swim team needing a more dedicated swim home since the Burbank Y has made it a little bit harder in recent years. And we also talked a lot about getting a dog park built over there. Yeah, and then at the same time while this is happening, the town is also doing this feasibility study to find a new home for the Reading Center for Active Living, also known as RECAP. And they've also looked at the SWEC site as a potential opportunity. Next. All right, so the survey, go ahead, next one. We got a pretty good response. We've got over 1,700 people that responded. And it seemed to be a pretty good cross-section in the community. All right, next one. So the top answer was that people are looking for recreational uses. So seems to be what we really focused on, and I agree that it's a good use of the site. So we're talking anything, soccer, pickleball. So that was where we think this should go. Open space is a big one, so that's good for us. I've also commented on that, and when we get to the site plan, there's a large part of the site that was purchased that will be going to conservation lease. That's my understanding. 16% of folks said they want to see some senior services here. And then we had some fill-ins such as a new ice rink, pickleball, and then just fields, whether they're turf, outdoor, athletic. So consistent with the recreation request. Or
That's a good question.
yeah,
A new ice rink replacement addition.
people, this is the survey asking what they would want to be added onto the site. So there was people that were commenting on the survey to another additional, like people were literally saying additional ice rink. So they want more.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, next one. So then we asked on the survey to rank the priority of example projects. This is a funny survey one, so you could choose them and you could say this is number one and number two, and you could choose multiple ones. So it looks like outdoor athletic fields is number one. Number two would be indoor recreation, and then three, conservation. So it's good. So go ahead, next. How important is that we actually do something on this site? And 3.5 out of 5 tells me that the majority of folks do want to do something here. They don't want to just do nothing. And that's what I get out of that question. Go ahead.
Okay, John, sorry.
No, you're good. So this is the top down view. So here we are, the ice arena. We see the Reading rifle. You can't really see Range Road that we were talking about, but it goes through the trees there where Chuck's going through on the edge of that parcel that we really were focusing at. There's two larger parcels that were purchased in 2019, the upper one, and then the southern one near Cedar Swamp South. And the larger outline is the actual property that was purchased. The bolded one is the area that it's kind of our initial charge to be looking at. What can we do with that portion of the land? Because everything outside of that is wetlands. And it's currently owned by town, but potentially could go to conservation. All right, go ahead to the next slide. So here is a zoom in focus of the Burbank ice areas. We're looking at area south. It's heavily treed, but it is mostly upland. There's a question that came up when our survey was done by Weston and Sampson that there may be contaminants. That's an open-ended question. As soon as we literally dig, then we have to answer to that. So we've been kind of letting it go until we figure out what we want to do on the site. Because that's once you find contaminants, the state has, or maybe federal has a timeline that you have to take care of them. And that costs money. So we wanted to wait on that. So it's an open question. Next. Two is there has been delineated, there are wetlands. And the delineation shows, so this is one question I have for you all, actually. I think that what I've drawn there is the actual non-wetland. So this is the area that it currently says 2.5 acres of buildable. But it's really should just be the area that is upland. And then there's also the 35-foot no build zone, which is taken into consideration of that, where we get the number, the 2.5 acres that are buildable.
Is that, sorry, that shaded polygon represents what?
The area that is not wetlands.
It's not wetlands. Okay, so.
Without the buffer zone being taken into.
So where the word wetlands is, that's where the wetlands are.
Yeah, the wetlands are all outside of that area. But there's been the big question is how much area is buildable? Now, technically, that 2.5 acres is taking into consideration the 35-foot no build zone. But if we're talking, my question for you all is if we're talking fields, like soccer fields, like clear if there's a building that needs a street, we need the 2.5 acres is what we're talking about. But if we're talking about fields, can you get closer than 35 feet? Then I've been. So I think this is fine as it is, but that's just a question for y'all. Is this a fair representation of what we're talking about? Or, because if you don't include the 35-foot no build zone, you have more like 3+ acres of land available.
Well, there would still be a 25-foot native vegetation zone, right?
Yes. Like, do I need to get into the details of that? I mean, everyone seems to be okay with this. I'm just saying there's 2.5 acres of buildable if we take into consideration.
Another
the
10
35
feet out there.
Yeah, there's technically another 10 feet that you could potentially put some fields.
So our regulations, that's a no structure zone,
Yeah,
not a no field zone. But it's best for the actual commission to answer that question when there's a proposal in front of them, because that would be easiest. That's how it's written in our regulations.
Yeah.
No structure.
okay. And then that means the word buildable still actually, there is only 2.5 acres of buildable land there. So that actually is a true statement. So I'm not gonna, I think it's fine that you could.
So based on past practices, there's 2.5 acres of buildable land, but the Conservation Commission could, they have the ability to extend not only through our regulations, through that zone of natural vegetation, that 35-foot zone further if they think it's warranted, but they can also, for some reason, for some discovery that's out there, environmental, they could extend the 35-foot, 50-foot to 100-foot. But those things haven't come up. I mean, you've checked it out, you've looked at the wetland information, I guess, and with Weston and Sampson, and it's just simply a wetland. And I will tell you, I was out there and it's pretty flat and it drops off. So there's a lot of fill, but it does drop off pretty sharply all throughout that edge that's along the wetland. And then you're right in it. So you're gonna get the hill, that elevation, and then you're gonna be, another 35 feet away if it's structures, and it would be, I guess it could be considered closer if it was a field.
Yeah.
That's
I
still,
have the 25 feet because the field is.
I think that's a no-touch zone. The 25 foot's a no-touch zone, but. And this may not apply. Again, it's the 7 members of the Conservation Commission are going to make up their mind. But I know that we've allowed applicants to use that 35 foot, between the 35 foot and the 25 foot for lawn. Because it's not a structure.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna there's some, vagueness to it, but I think for this high level presentation, I think this makes sense.
Okay.
Do you know,
Go ahead.
do you know approximately when that land was filled?
Oh, Zani was the old former owner who was bought from, they were a construction company. This site has an interesting history of being used during post-World War II for missiles. And then Zani, who knows there's definitely a lot of junk on there. But there's a lot of trees that have grown on top of it. So in addition to just like actual contaminants, there's a lot of trash that needs to get cleaned up.
That's where the name of the sports teams came from, right?
What's that?
Reading Rockets.
Oh, is that from the,
They were Nike Rockets back in the Cold War.
yeah, this was the old Nike set. I didn't really associate that. Oh. That's how we got there. All right, next slide. And then when you do actually build something, as we've seen on the Main Street, you need to have a fire lane. So that makes that area even more constrained. So, yeah.
Walter has his hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Walter. Do you have a question, Walter?
Well, actually, a comment. I just heard the word military for the first time.
Yeah,
With missiles and stuff like that.
Yeah, this mostly north of it is where the Nike missile site was, where the baseball field is now.
If it's already been examined, then this is a mute issue. Just that my past professional experience was helping to clean up military sites, groundwater, et cetera, et cetera. And any military site is a normal mess. So, but if it's already been looked into, it's a moot issue.
No, people are worried. Well,
It hasn't been, you going back to the slide about contaminants question mark? It hasn't been looked at yet.
it has not been looked at. It's a concern. Yes.
Mhm.
So, yeah, moving on. So we have the contaminants, the wetlands, so we have limited buildable space. So go on to the next slide. This is a slide Chuck made. So there's a question, what else can we build on? The blue, purple is potentially buildable areas. There are also vernal pools. So we just expanded our scope. Next slide. So here are our recommendations. We are looking at public-private options, the senior center, multipurpose fields, dog park, and pickle. Next slide. So for multipurpose fields, they're needed, and we could do them with other, we could do that with a dog park or a senior center, so we could combine them. Next slide. People want pickleball courts. Next slide. We need a senior center somewhere. Next slide. And the dog park would be nice. Next slide. And then we actually got a request from one's response to the RFI that proposed multi-use indoor recreational facility by Edge Sports, who, if you're familiar with the Sports Institute in Worcester, something along those lines. Next slide. And then conservation. There is the option just to recommend doing nothing and the whole site goes to conservation. Or also just the remainder of the site hopefully actually does go to conservation. So people want it. Next slide. So this is one way of doing it is we've put some multi-purpose fields there, then we'll need parking. Next slide. We don't put fields there, we want to build something. This would be a good site for something like a senior center potentially. Next slide. So this is actually an idea by Pickleball. They want to use the area behind Burbank now. It's gravel, so that would have to get paved. So the idea is to put some pickleball courts permanently behind. And then what we do with the rest of the site is a big question. Next slide. And then this is the request we got from the public-private, the Edge, which would be to put a pool, potentially a hockey rink, or open gym, pickleball, an indoor facility. And that would take up the whole overflow parking behind Burbank, which means the existing area that we were looking at would become probably entirely parking. Next slide. Or we could try to really think through it all and do a lot, do the big indoor recreational, get a parking garage, a community center, fields, and a dog park, but that would take some more planning and some big thinking.
Oh, parking garage.
Garage.
Multi-level?
There's no way you could fit all that unless you put a garage there. So next slide. So how do we do that? We would need, so these are just ways we could potentially fund it. Obviously get money from taxpayers, do the PPI. So we're having some town maybe do the parking and then a private developer build the actual indoor facility. Next slide. Some grants. This really came up with the dog park. So, and there's other ones. And so with this being former the military land, I do think there are other grants available. So have someone really explore what grants are out there that could help us develop this. If it is something like a pickleball court, they're willing to try to pay for it on their own. Or let's keep searching for other people that can help make something happen there. Next slide. This is it. So there's a slide I wanted to see that didn't get in there. Is this it?
Yeah, next one's this thing.
Yeah.
All right, so try to go back up before the recommendations. Right around there. Oh, the conservation slide. Rebecca, so this is how it's written right now. So the land that is below, that is currently part of Cedar Swamp that was purchased. Well, I understand from Chuck when I first started that that would become conservation land in the long term. So one of our recommendations would be, if that's true or whatnot, do we want to take that on to become actual conservation land, or should it just remain town land? Or how should we make that recommendation to the select board? Does recommend conveying non-buildable area to permanent conservation? Is that the best way of saying that?
Yeah, I think the town could gift that land. I'm looking for the slide. The town could gift that land to the Conservation Commission. I don't know, it wasn't up yet.
To me, the contamination question is huge. I'll preface anything else I say by saying I am continually perplexed how municipalities buy properties without fully doing a due diligence.
Yeah, no,
All it takes is a simple phase 1 study or a phase 2 study, put a couple augers in the ground, particularly considering the history of this project. Walter's right. Military sites can be fairly pristine. They can also be disasters. I don't know exactly what this property was used for, but the contaminants that I've seen on military properties include everything from TCE and fluorinated solvents down to PCBs, dioxins, metals, explosive materials, perchlorates. It's a literal.
No, it's a landfill.
It's a landfill, and it's not a minor issue.
No, it's not.
So my recommendation would be before.
Well, it's be owned by the town.
I know, but as Andrew mentioned, as soon as you put a shovel into the ground and you have to start characterizing the waste, you could end up with a $50 million cleanup project, a $10 million cleanup project. Maybe there's no issue at all. Maybe it's just a bunch of ground up concrete and some building materials are going to come up anyway. But you need to be really careful that you understand what you're getting into, because of PFAS. You know, if there were chemical systems, fire suppression systems, I don't know when the Nikes were decommissioned, but what they could have used there. You know, if it's after the 50s and PFAS is an issue, now you're talking multi-million dollars for disposal.
No,
so I have a question, Tony.
Yeah.
But if the land was given to conservation, because I thought that's what you were talking about, like show the piece of land that's being proposed, which is this lower section, which is mostly swamp. Since it's already town land and since it's already swamp, they wanted to give that section to the Conservation Commission, and we probably would just have it part of our inventory and never do anything out there.
Yep.
What do you think of that?
I think we need to be explicit that we're not going to put an auger, a shovel, a spoon into the ground.
Don't want to know.
No disturbance, like maybe an activity use limitation on it, or an environmental use limitation on it even, just to really.
Is the conservation restriction a better way to do it? Because you can write.
That's one of the one I would have mentioned that. It's as though I only have like one arrow in my quiver, and I was going to say a CR that restricts everything except for a site visit each year to check the boundaries.
Right, but that would mean even no trails, no kiosks, because I guess it's possible that you're digging a post hole and up from the ground comes bubbling.
I would have to confirm, but I don't think the area we're talking about was ever part of the Nike Mesa site.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where it was. I just know that that's where the name came from.
Yeah.
Or for any waste disposal that's there. I mean, that could be. It
No,
could
they
be
can
catastrophic in terms of cost. So for the alternatives you put up, anything that requires an excavation, I would be very cautious of.
So maybe we should add a do nothing.
Oh, no.
Serious.
So again, Tony, what about a field that didn't, could, I don't know, would a field work, a capped field, or are we still getting into it?
I would leave that up to the LSP who would be involved in any site design.
So I guess it's for us, the only answer we can give you is if they wanted to donate the land to conservation, we would try to restrict it so nothing ever happened to it. It would just be part of the inventory.
To get the wording right, are we asking them to donate it to the Conservation Commission?
Yes.
That's the
So the
actual,
reason why we want to have it donated to the Conservation Commission is because that can happen without town meeting approval. It's an easy path. That's the path that we've used before. Because of the Conservation Commission Act, we can accept land in that way. And it's a very easy process.
okay.
Town council will probably make a survey, but
Well, I think it is surveyed. Send
yeah,
someone out there to, but I think they do have a survey, and they, you know, when they actually got the land. What was the town manager that was here when they purchased? This
It was Bob, yeah.
Bob LaSure? Okay,
But okay, so that one slide where we're talking about the conservation, so maybe we can rewriting it to say gifting land to Conservation Commission? Yeah, okay.
Just a comment about the whether it could be playing fields. Right now, that land has a fair amount of elevation changes. It's got some more or less hills in the middle, so it would require some digging to make it flat playing fields. And Walter has his hand up.
If we take responsibility for the land, I don't know legally, and maybe we need Bill to answer this question. Aren't we responsible then for the pollution underneath it?
only if you find it.
well, absolutely, but I mean, my thought was, I'm not sure there's much difference between conservation and, you know, conservation, open space, you know, as far as the town looks at it.
Depend who the lawyers sue and if you're on the conservation.
I think it would all be the town's responsibility, even if it was just conservation land.
By hearing, we don't want it either.
But
And this is certainly, with this conversation, certainly we'll get town council to weigh in on this.
But even if we took responsibility for the land, if we don't do anything that uncovers something, then we don't have to do anything. Right?
That-
It's not a realized liability until you actually discover something.
So I've known a lot of municipalities are very wary of donations of land, even if they're only doing trails on that land. And the reasons are exactly what Tony mentioned, is that there are contaminants there, and then it's their problem. This is different. Bob LaSure and back in whenever that happened has already bought this. Whatever's there is there. So I'm taking that off the table and I'm saying, if someone wants to give us land that the town already owns.
So let me ask this, going back to Tony's hypothetical, there may be a $50 million cleanup. Even if the commission accepts responsibility, it's still the town that's on the hook for that, right? It's not us somehow.
They might come to your house. No, it's still, it's still the town. I mean, I would like town council to confirm, always, this is, you know, something where always town council would be.
Yeah, I just want to be sure that we didn't have any independent legal standing, that's all.
But it doesn't seem, swapping it from the town to the town conservation commission, the cleanup, if there was something, it'd still remain. And Tony, you know, they discover the problem on the dry land. They need to chase it.
Yeah.
Until all these parameters. So it could.
Which is what we
head in
started
that direction.
Thomas Millette.
Yeah, it could head in that direction. So it's not safe. So this is, I mean, yes, but let's get the okay from town council.
Trojan horse.
On a more positive comment would be on your list of funding sources, include brownfield grants. Particularly for, you know, even investigation purposes.
Actually, if we were a green community, isn't that one of the purposes of the green community is to encourage open space? So theoretically, money could come from that to, we already bought the land, so it wouldn't be that, but
Karen Herrick was talking about the town's classification. I think that they are either trying or whatnot, but I think it's a question for Karen Herrick.
Yeah, I know it's on their list of things to address, yeah.
Yeah. I have a question. You know, we just talked about it briefly. How much time did the committee take on this possible contaminants issue? Was that an entire meeting, or was anyone brought in to kind of make you understand what you have to do to facilitate a cleanup or anything like that? Or who on the land, what's out there? And I mean, because it definitely looks like it's filled on top of wetland. And that to me, everything off the road until it drops down again is filled.
Yeah.
So where did that come from?
No, not much. I mean, we had the initial meeting, which was just setting up chairs. So then the second meeting when Weston and Sampson came and presented was when the conversation came up.
Yeah.
So it was along the lines of just getting introduced to the whole site. And then the wetland delineation, then they mentioned that they, you know, did preliminary testing and saw that there were potential contaminants. I believe it was at that same meeting that we discussed the same issues. Same questions. Why did we do that to ourselves? And then ultimately it was decided that we're gonna add it up, that we're not ready to dig into that, literally.
So somehow you're gonna say these are recommendations provided that some sort of environmental study happens to make sure that there's no contaminants?
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those, yeah, it's
That
just
might be step
it's the
one.
big elephant in the room where we know it's
I
an
realize it was such a
issue.
big deal.
The contaminants can also help you figure out how to use the property. Right? So if you have contamination there, and maybe it's not, maybe there's, I'm just speaking hypothetically, right? There are contaminants that aren't moving around too much, or if they were covered with an impervious surface, wouldn't move around too much. And that would suggest that might be a good spot for a parking lot or for a building with pickleball courts inside, right?
Yeah.
So you can use a risk-based approach to help guide your future land use possibilities.
So you're right. I don't think, when you go to our next steps, so keep going, yeah.
Trying to do it this way.
Let me go back a couple slides, not there. Oh, yeah, okay, so no, so yeah, you went to, keep going back towards the end. Do it all, methods to achieve recommendations. We never say do an environmental study. All right, that's a huge one to add. Okay.
So on these, I know these are rough sketches and what have you.
Yeah.
So on some of these pictures where they trying to get more things in there,
Yeah.
are you working with some presumed size, minimum size for a building that would be useful as a senior center, would be useful as a multi-purpose building?
Yeah, I mean, we have, the feasibility studies actually tried to put a senior center there. It seems to work. There was an architect on retainer while, Fidel was here.
Because it's not only
That's
not big,
tried
but
to-
it's awkwardly shaped.
It's awkward. They put out like, you know, you could find it in the SWEC meeting minutes or packets rather. There are some drawings that show you can actually fit things on. You cannot fit a full soccer field, but you can fit like a 9v9, you know, a 12 and under soccer. You could fit youth lacrosse. But yeah, we wanted to keep it open-ended since we really don't know where this is going.
Yeah,
But it is feasible, but it's tight.
Do you know if so the Burbank, that doesn't have a basement, does it? Or did that come up?
That has not come up. No, I mean, so the whole land behind there is leased to Burbank for, I thought first I thought it was 10 years, but now I understand it's 20 years.
Yeah, and it just happened.
Yeah, it just happened while we were meeting, yeah. So a lot of this stuff has got a lot of moving parts to it.
Yeah, that's an eye-opening conversation that you brought up, for sure. Yeah, it would take somebody with some expertise in brownfields to help the town out with that.
Yeah. So I guess, while I have you here, Tony, are we asking perhaps the select board to do an environmental study? Is that like maybe the next, is that truly the next step?
I mean, I would talk to the town council and I would talk to the licensed site professional who's advising on this, assuming we have one, to find out exactly what they would recommend in terms of an environmental study. At the very least, a review of available historical literature, see if you can figure, go through who owned it. See if you can figure out somehow what was disposed of there. I don't know if there's anyone still around who worked around here. Those are always valuable sources to go and interview them.
So that's typically called an environmental impact report.
Environmental impact report. Okay, thank
And
you.
there's phase 1 and 2. Phase 1, we just said the history, it's kind of a book research.
Yeah, and phase 1 would be something more similar to the ASTM standard, where you're not really doing any intrusive investigation, not to be confused with a mass DEP. The contingency plan, phase 1, where you're actually installing groundwater wells.
You got your hand up, Walt?
Yeah, just to go with what Tony was saying, since the water table is so high probably right there, digging the test wells is not exactly a major problem. You could probably find out within weeks what the answer is just from the groundwater part. Now, as far as solids, who knows? But at least from groundwater, which is the most hardest thing to clean up, that would be a relatively easy thing to discover.
I wouldn't necessarily agree that groundwater is the easiest thing to clean up.
I didn't say clean up, I said discover.
Oh, not the easiest, okay.
He's agreeing with you.
Yes, then I'm agreeing with Walt.
And were there any monitoring wells out there or that you know of?
That I know of.
Okay, yeah, I don't.
Where does Burbank, do we know where Burbank gets their water for their ice? Are they on?
They're on town water, I'm assuming, because of the Range Road we were just looking at.
Okay.
Going back to.
Yeah.
They don't have.
I don't know.
They don't have their own extraction.
Okay, can we move on?
Okay.
I'm done, yeah.
Done?
Any other further comments?
If you have any more questions, we move to the next topic.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation.
The next topic would be, I guess, violations notices. No additional, no changes since what we talked about last time. The Bear Meadow land use discussion has been continued to April 24th because we saw what a full agenda this was going to be. So next one, Martha, you want to talk to Friends and Family Day on June 8th?
I had a question on the Bear Meadow land use discussion.
Mr. Chen.
We may not make that time frame based on all the comments and then getting some information back from Bill at Mass Audubon. So
I have to make it.
I just wanted to throw that out there. Do you think it should be the 24th still, or do you think, because Tony let me know that there's more comments to come? And so I guess
I've sent you all my comments.
you're done with the comments. Yes. Martha, you done with your comments? Just thinking.
I think I am. Yeah, I sent you what I put into the Word document up to the point we had talked about it. And I didn't hear back whether it worked for you to see those markups and whether it actually got marked up.
So it did take him a while to produce the report in the first place. But I don't think we can assume, therefore it'll take him a long time to update. That wouldn't be.
I'll reach out tomorrow and just see what.
So I would suggest that we leave it on the 24th, at least to the next meeting. And if we have to, next meeting, we'll move the target. That's still a couple weeks in advance.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I had.
All right, so Friends and Family Day.
Yeah, It's on June 8th, and we are allowed to have a booth. We did that last year. Is there interest in having a booth again this year to talk to the public and explain about conservation lands?
I always have interest in that. Talking, that is.
Okay.
Martha, we talked about it after the last one, and we agreed that it wasn't a big impact by any means. We talked to whatever, a dozen people. Some of them had more enthusiasm than others. We actually talked to some people who weren't even residents, but I still think it's worth reaching out to people wherever we can to try and connect. We would need an updated map because the last one's been destroyed.
Updated or
Got
just
rained on.
Another version of it,
Okay.
another printout. Because that one's, yeah, it's gone through the wars. But I think it's worth us at least having something there. It's only a few hours, right? And now we have a pop-up tent, right?
Okay, and then I can help out, and it sounds like we could just get closer and then
Figure
find
out,
out who's available, because they might not know their schedule at this point.
right, and whether we need to get some new handouts or things to talk about.
Yeah, that's always available. It's always something we can grab.
Okay,
Yeah, so I'll put in the application and we'll have that available, and we'll see who can show up. And it's really not that long a time to just stay there.
it really isn't. And besides, the last time we didn't stay the whole time because it ended up raining towards the end.
Yeah. So we'll get the tent, the electricity, and
There's no electricity there. Oh, friends and family day, you were. I was
provide
thinking
electricity,
Town
yeah.
Hall Appreciation, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds
Okay. Go ahead.
Lost whoever. Okay, so the next thing is,
The next DPW meeting is April 2nd. Once again, as far as I know, I can make it. I actually made one this past time. I would really like to have somebody else come along if you can, if only to expose you to the experience. I realize some of you work for a living, but
I should be able to be there this time.
okay. So at least we have it covered, and if somebody else wants to come along, certainly it's a Zoom call. That's easy enough to do. So it's covered. Any bills approved, Chuck?
no,
Any administrative report, Chuck?
don't have an administrative report.
We have one set of minutes to approve. Have people sent their comments in, or do they want to tell us now if they have comments? I only had one minor one that I sent to Chuck, so my input's in.
I have a comment, and I just wanted to throw it out for the group to discuss. The discussion under 6 draft stewardship plan for Bear Meadow. There's a pretty good litany of some very specific edits to the report. Do we need to include those in the minutes? Would it be enough just to shorten that to say that we discussed the stewardship plan, provided comments and forwarded those comments?
I don't know.
I think that would be fine for minutes. You don't have to really have too much.
Yeah, I was just thinking at this point, though, it'll probably be more work to take it out than it would be just to let it go this time, but.
To highlight, delete, and save.
Yeah, fair enough.
Button correction.
Oh, okay, I think that's fine. Because it probably wasn't a comprehensive list anyway, so.
Right.
Sure.
There was one place in the minutes that I noticed, and I apologize for not sending it ahead of time. In the discussion of the shed on Hensey Street, the minutes said something about moving it off the property, and it's phrased in a strange way that it sounds like it's I think it's backwards. It's phrased in some way where we want to move the thing, and it was phrased that they could leave it off or something like that. So I think just to have Chuck take a look at it and make sure it really says what we meant to say.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I have the three.
Any other changes we should get in there? Not hearing anything. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
A second.
Walter?
Walter Talbot's in favor?
Andrew Gibbon in favor?
Brian?
Marcus in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Okay, so moved. Before we adjourn, is there any last minute thoughts? Okay, no. Then do we want to get a motion to adjourn at 9:38?
I move to adjourn at 9:38.
Second. All in favor?
All right,
Okay.
we're adjourned.